Hopefully people can see my beautiful face.
I know it. Well, both they can see my rosy cheeks because I am very warm. I'm what might be called moist. Hello. If there,
Hello.
I don't think there's anybody in the chat right now. I think Magus stopped by and to show us some love, love,
Yes,
love.
he came to my live stream on Saturday, and I told him to come and see us.
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah.
Yes.
And let's see. We have and my son David, who is Bartholomew, he showed up. So that's always good. He just popped in to show us some love.
Yes.
But the topic that we're going to talk about today is one that I chose. It's grief as a spiritual teacher, and David and I are very well acquainted with David and I. Listen to me. I've got David on the brain. Lexi and I are very well acquainted with grief.
Yes.
And I just thought that it would be a really good topic for us to broach. And Lexi, just what do you when you hear the word grief, what do you think about? I mean, there are all different kinds of grief, but I think we're talking about this time. We're talking about the grief of someone passing.
Right. In the topic, that you chose, what does grief teach us? Spiritually, for me, in the beginning, I didn't see grief as a teacher for me, honestly. I saw grief more, it wasn't a teacher, I should say, while I was in the middle of it, right? While I was in the middle of it, I was just not, it wasn't a good thing, right? I just was in the thick of things.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and it was just painful. But when I look back now, years later from that time, I realized that grief has taught me compassion. It's taught me a lot of compassion and gratitude and resilience. Because we never think that we're going to get over it when it happens. We're so into it. And I was never angry. Some people, when grief happens to you, you're never prepared. I don't care if you know that the person is very sick, if it's sudden, if it's anything, you're never prepared for grief, no matter what the situation is.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, you're just not prepared. And I feel like the gratitude now, has really taught me how precious time is.
Yes.
And that's what taught me. But in the beginning, it wasn't. I couldn't see the forest for the trees in the beginning. I was just so distraught, and different types of grief. Like we have lost people in our lives close to us.
Yes.
Both our parents. You have lost a spouse. I have lost, not a spouse, but somebody who was in my life, the father of my child. He wasn't in my life during that time. But there's still a grief about it.
Right.
And so, when you're in the thick of things, you think, oh my God, this is awful, or some people just go through that anger, the different stages. There are so many stages of grief that you go through. But I love this topic that you chose for us because it makes you think, what has grief spiritually taught me, as a spiritual teacher? And I think it really has taught me now resilience and compassion, and just really being, that time is so precious. And that's a lesson that, these lessons didn't come immediately for me, but they came after the pain, these lessons.
Right. Well, I had some notes to start, and I don't think that grief is something that we conquer. It's something that we learn to walk beside, because when this happens, it's devastating no matter what and I cannot even comprehend what it would be like to have a child die.
Yes.
I mean, I can't,
Ooh, yes,
I mean,
Nancy.
I cannot, I just can't even get my hands around that.
No,
There are many people
no.
that have
Mhm.
experienced that, and it's absolutely heartbreaking.
Yes.
And I think at first, I don't know if grief feels like an enemy. It's something that you have to come to terms with, even when you don't want to.
I agree.
I mean, and I think that later, after the process, that of doing the walk and doing the work, there comes, we realize that it's one of our greatest teachers, if
Yes.
if we allow that to,
Right.
you
If we
know
allow it to be.
and I personally have found that grief has been a tremendous teacher for me, you
Yes.
know and uh,
How so, Nancy?
well, um, when my husband was sick for a long time before he passed, and I was absolutely exhausted. I became very, very depressed. I mean, there were years when he did not. I mean, it was years and years that he had woke up and had a good day. I mean, every day was just this painful ordeal for him for like 4 or 5 years, you know. And of course, his personality completely changed, and mine did too. I mean,
Yes.
I was his caregiver, and I loved him. You know, I mean, we had a wonderful marriage. I mean, we were polar opposites, but and I just became so depressed that my doctor put me on Prozac. Hey Ben, it's so lovely to see you in the chat. We love you right back.
Hello,
We're talking
Ben.
about grief today, Ben, uh, and also, I didn't say, but if anybody is watching this back on replay, um, you know, I have compassion, for everyone who has had to walk with grief, you know,
Yes,
because like we said, it is a walk,
it
But
is.
but at the time that my husband died, I was just not myself, you know. And it took me over a year to really come out of it. And finally, my children could say, "Mama's back," you know.
Yes.
I mean, because I had a lot of stuff that I had to work through, you know,
Hmm.
and I had to forgive myself
Yes.
because I mean, I know about. I mean, I am not a death doula, but I have read a lot about it, and there are certain things that you can do when you are with someone who is going to pass. There are things that you can do that can make it easier for them. And I was in such a state, I was not able to do that for him, you
Hmm.
know. And I felt really, I was absolutely destroyed by that, you know. But
Yes.
I just couldn't. I wasn't myself. I had become someone else. And that's what's so hard. Ben says grief can be tough. It's
Yes.
talk about it. Yes, if you have
Yes.
someone to talk about it. And some people feel uncomfortable around it. They
Mhm.
it's fine, like, if flowers are sent and people show up to the funeral or the wake or the celebration or whatever you have, and then it's like, well, snap out of it.
Right.
And
Right.
you
And
know
some people have that attitude. Somebody told me that online.
oh
Um,
goodness.
they were like, "Oh, well, you need to just get over it." And I'm like, "I will never get over it. I will
No,
never. I will
no.
never." I blocked that person too, but I'm like, "I will never get over it." You
Yeah,
can never say that to anybody. We all deal with grief in so many
yeah,
different ways,
yeah, yeah.
you know? So, yes.
um one of the things that I wanted to say is that, when a person passes, the love doesn't end. You still love that person, you know. And Ben
Yes.
says, I don't think you ever get over it. You just learn to live. It's easier as time
Time
passes.
passes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
and it
true,
and
Ben.
it is Ben. But I think that when you get to a place where, okay, you have the love of this person. I mean, you could not have loved your mother more, and
Right.
I could not have loved my husband more. Okay?
Yes.
And so now they're not physically here with us, but just because they died doesn't mean that they're gone. Their love is still with us, and their
Of
love still walks
course.
with us every step of the way.
Every
And
step of
I
the
have
way.
found that to be very, very comforting. Very
Yes.
comforting.
Me
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And I always knew that, the guilt, though, like you said, Nancy, the guilt is a big thing. And I think most of us who are caregivers, we
Hmm.
have a lot of guilt.
Yes.
And so that was something that, I talked
Hmm.
about it here. And it took me 3.5 years to stop crying every single day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cried every single day over the loss of my mom, and also the grief of, why didn't I know that she was sick, and why didn't I this, and why didn't I this, and I should have, could have, would have. I'm not a cardiothoracic surgeon. I would have never known that her heart was failing. I would have never known these things.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
I took that. I blamed myself because I feel like if I knew something, maybe she would still be here. And
Yeah.
but at that time, in that moment, that's what I
Right.
thought.
Right.
I mean, I know God needed her more than she did
Yeah.
her time here. God needed her
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
and I could say that now, but in the beginning, and I was never angry at God, and it was nothing like that. I know a lot of people have that where they're so angry at God for taking their loved one.
Hmm.
I was never angry because my mother was 89. She was just
Yeah. Yeah.
4 months shy of her 90th birthday,
But
and
you
I would,
wanted her to live to be 100.
yes, and
Yeah.
she
Yes.
was. She
Yes.
promised.
And Charlotte just came in. Charlotte loves the Wiggles. And welcome, Charlotte. And Ben said, I love that the love is always with you inside.
Yes.
And I think too, the intensity of grief that we feel
Hmm.
um, shows the depth of our connection with that person.
Yes, it does.
You know,
Yes.
and I believe I'm sure that there are a lot of people that would disagree with this, but I believe that when you truly love someone, that love is always there. I mean, things
Yes.
change, but there was this, you talked about your uh, uh, I don't know his name, but your partner
Yes.
passed.
Sam. Yes.
Yeah.
Zoe's father. Yes. Hmm.
But there were times when there was love,
Yes,
and
there
you
was.
have to
There
honor
was at
you
one
have to
time.
honor
Yes.
that. Yeah, at one
Yes.
time. But
That's, I wouldn't have my daughter if there wasn't any love. So
right,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a question of like, how do you stop grieving? And I think that's the wrong question, because you don't stop grieving.
Yes.
You continue loving in another way.
Right.
And one of the things, Ben said, I appreciate you both sharing your experiences. Such a great topic to ask about. I talked about the guilt, and one thing that I did, and this has to do with being grief, being a spiritual teacher. I worked through everything. There was over a year before I could go into my husband's bedroom, because we had
Mhm.
separate bedrooms because he was so sick he didn't sleep at night. He was up and
Right.
down all night long. And I just, like I said, I felt so guilty. And I worked through all of this stuff. And finally, when I got to the point where I could forgive myself, I knew that I wanted him to forgive me,
Yes.
because now that he's on the other side, he could see he can see everything. And
Yes.
he knows everything. I mean, I believe this. And one night I was sitting in the living room by myself. My son lives next door, but I live alone. And I was thinking about him, and I started talking to him. And I felt his presence, his
Mhm.
essence with me, as if he were sitting right next to me.
Yes.
But he was standing. I mean, I could just feel,
Mhm.
and I I was just crying. Oh my goodness. I mean, it was a sloppy kind of crying.
Yes. Yes.
And I was talking out loud to him, and I just got that there was just this overwhelming thought of forgiveness and
Mhm.
love, and like there was nothing to forgive. He completely understood.
Mhm.
And I can't tell you what that did to me. It just helped me so much, because I wanted to show one tarot card of how this card has come to mean so much to me, and it is the Eight of Swords, and this is in Sarah Marchetti's deck. Oh, what's it called? Mystic Palette. And um, in my mind's eye, this was me. I was
Mm.
surrounded by the swords. I was blindfolded, and it was a mental thing with me. I could not I could not step away. And I was working with these cards one day, and I looked at it and I saw the cage. She's holding a cage. And the cage door was open and the bird was coming out. And it was me and my mind that had kept me in that cage. When the door was open all along, it was up to me to make the move. I could fly away, but I had stayed in that cage through guilt and whatever. And so this card now is one of my favorite cards in the tarot, because of what it's significant, it's significant, what it signifies
Yes.
to me,
Yes.
you know. And the other card that this is from the Star Tarot. This is the Death card, and it shows the phoenix rising. And death does not have a face, because we don't know what death looks like,
Right.
you know. And I love that, because I feel like this is a positive card. There's the stars are in it, and there's a butterfly, and there's light in the hands of death, when death comes for you.
Yes.
But those cards have meant just a whole lot to me. And I have one more that I wanted to share, um, is the Three of Swords, and I think this is from the same deck, Mystic Palettes. But what I love about this is the pain that it shows.
Mhm.
The broken heart,
Yes.
the tears in his eyes, and two. I was talking to Jilly Little Zen Crone, and she was talking about how she sees the Three of Swords is one of the ways she sees it is we have pierced our own heart with the three different swords.
Right.
We have done that to ourselves. That
Mm.
it's something,
Mhm.
and with what I had gone through, that makes total sense to me.
It does.
You know,
It
but
does. It does.
yeah. Did you have some cards you wanted to
I
share?
do, Nancy. I do. One of the cards, which I can't find it here, but the card that I picked earlier, and I put it
Mm-hmm.
back. I don't know what I did with that deck, but it's similar to this. This is the 111, and 1111 is one of the cards that I always gravitate to, because my mother's birthday was 1111,
Uh,
and my mother was my earth angel for her whole life. She was an
mhm.
angel. 1111 is her birthday. Every day at 1111, I stop whatever I'm doing if I can, And that's when I talk to my mother. That's every single day, no matter what. That's
Mhm.
every single day. And one of whenever I see 1111, it just makes me smile because that was the
Yeah,
day that my mother was born.
that's yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it always reminds me of her. So whether someone believes in angel numbers or
Mhm.
they or simply meaningful coincidence, it reminds me that love never really leaves us. Whenever I see that number, I know that love never leaves us. And I did another one, and that was the number 222. That was one of my mother's favorite numbers. And, of course, it means balance and peace and trust, um,
Mhm.
and also alignment, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
whenever I see that, I always think about trusting the season, trusting the season that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I always think about it that way because sometimes, as we all know, healing is not fast. And it's simply, we have to learn to stay present. So healing doesn't always have to happen fast. We have to give ourselves grace in that
Mhm.
in that. And the tarot that I chose was I picked three. Well, not that I chose. I asked Spirit for a few cards, and the cards that came out were, of course, I got the beautiful star, and
Mhm.
which I love, and the star, it just signifies hope. It's so much hope. And I love this card. And this is the deck that Nancy gave me, the Light Seers Tarot. And she's just looking. She's looking up into the sky, with that hope. And that's what it always reminds me when I see the star card that, basically after grief, we don't become who we were before. We never become who we were before because it changes us. It changes us so much. And it doesn't always mean that darkness is
Mhm.
here. It doesn't always mean that, but
Yes.
it means that eventually we can see the light again. So that's what this card signifies to me. And Nancy and I picked two of the same cards. We both picked, and it's so dark here. I'm sorry, everybody. You all can't see the
Oh,
Death
there's yeah.
card
Uh-huh.
and the Hermit.
Yeah.
And the Death card, like you said, the Death card symbolizes transformation and endings
Yes.
and letting go and, basically becoming someone new. And
Yeah.
that's what I had to do after 3.5 years of really grieving and holding on to that
Yes.
guilt. I had to transform myself and become
Yeah.
somebody new. I really had to.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. And so this just means so much. And this Hermit card, this was the last one that I chose. And I feel like the Hermit card is just some of the best things have happened to me, the seasons to me when I was alone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and able to sit with myself.
Yeah. And Jilly just popped in. She can't stay long, but she's in the chat right now. One of the things that you said, Lexi, about grief makes us it doesn't make us, it asks us to become someone new.
Yes, yes,
Because as we go forward, it doesn't mean that we stop being ourselves. I think it means that slowly we grow into a version of ourselves where we carry both love and sorrow. I mean,
yes,
there is, I don't think grief completely goes away, but it becomes manageable, and like I said, it is a spiritual teacher, you know.
yes,
And at least I have found that to be true, and I have gotten much closer to my cards because of what they meant to me during this
hmm,
period when I was doing this. Um, rather than moving on, I feel like we're moving forward,
yes,
as we go. But we're taking that love with us because the love isn't lost. The love will always remain. And
yes. I
and
agree.
you know, um, And I think Crohn's, we're talking about from a Crohn's perspective. Crohn's understand grief because we've lived a long time and we have seen a lot of loss.
We
You
have. We
know,
have.
and uh, I can use an example. Like I am 79 years old, and my 14-year-old cousin died when I was 13, and um, that was to me that was the most traumatic thing that has happened in my life.
Yes.
Because first of all, a 13-year-old doesn't think about um, someone that's her age,
No.
you know.
Hmm.
And the morning my parents told me that Helen had died, I thought they were talking about Helen Volpe in our church, you
Right.
know. And I said, "Oh, I didn't even know Helen Volpe was sick." And they said, "No, honey, it's not Helen Volpe. It's your cousin Helen." I
Yes.
mean, I felt like the world had stopped spinning.
Yes. Yes.
And it took a long, long time for me to get over that. And
Yes,
I still
Nancy.
I still carry it, you know.
Yeah, of course you do.
But
You will always.
I have come to realize that what she was sent here to do, she did.
Yes.
And it was time for her, it was time for her to leave.
Yes.
But uh
But it takes so much time to get to that point. It
oh,
it takes
oh my
time
goodness, yes, because I was
to
so
get to
young, I
that.
didn't understand. And I I suppose, looking back, I was angry. They talk about the different stages of grief.
Yes.
I was not angry. I mean, when my husband passed, it was a blessing because he had been so sick.
Right.
But
Right.
with Helen, it was really different. And with my parents, Daddy was 87 and Mother was almost 92. She outlived him by 18 months. And they both. I mean, it was time for them to go on. But
Yes.
uh, and I hovered over my mother. Oh my goodness. And the hospice just could not understand,
Hmm. Hmm.
why she was still here. And they said, "Are you with her all the time?" And I said, "Pretty much. Yes, I don't want to leave her alone." And they said, "She needs space. She doesn't want to leave you. Give her some space." And so I went
Yes.
out and fixed me something cold to drink,
Hmm.
and I was gone maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And when I went back into the room, she was transitioning, you know.
Yes.
And that was right.
Yes.
That was the,
I
the way
agree.
she wanted to do it.
Yes, Nancy, I agree. That was the same with my mom in the hospice. As the stages came of her transitioning. And that's one of the things I think about too. I learned in those 5 stages,
Mhm.
um, grief isn't a staircase. It's just not a staircase. I mean, we don't climb one stage to the next stage to the next
Mhm.
stage. It's like you just never look back. You might feel acceptance for months,
Mhm.
and then a birthday song comes on, right? Or a commercial. I see a commercial and I immediately start bawling because I'm like, oh, that was my mom's. If mommy was here, she loved that commercial, or things like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we see things like that. But what I wanted to say also is that we just really have to move through, um I guess, these stages. You never move through them in order, right? I think
Mhm.
that our goal is never to stop grieving, because we're never going to stop grieving our loved ones. But
Mhm.
I think it's to learn how to keep living, right?
Yes.
And carrying on. And that's very hard for a lot of us. When my dad died 28 years ago, when
Mhm.
Zoe was a baby.
Oh.
We were on our way. I gave birth to Zoe in March of 1998, March 3rd to be exact. And we were scheduled to go see my father in July. and spend a month with him so that he can
Mm.
get to see Zoe. And since Zoe was my first child and I was his last child, and so the first grand that I was having, and he was so excited about it. And his cancer came back in those months. He didn't tell me. And he called me one day and he says, oh, he was so upset about something. And I'm like, well, Daddy, what's going on? He's like, I'm just mad, blah, 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 blah. And then he hung up. We hung up. And he was mad about another relative.
Mhm.
And I never talked to him again after that. Now, the next week, I was to leave to be with him. And I get a phone call in the middle of the night from my stepmother saying, well, your father passed away. 3 days
Oh,
before Zoe and I were to leave to
yeah.
go. So, of course, now that trip turned into me planning his funeral.
Yeah.
Because him and my stepmother were no longer together.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it was up to me and my siblings, but mostly me, and as the youngest. And, I think about that. And then I fast forward to maybe 23 years later, because my mother died when Zoe was 23, right after Zoe turned 23.
Uh-huh.
And it was a totally different thing. I mean, yes, I grieved my dad. I planned his funeral. I did all the things. And I had a moment with him alone when we were at the crematorium, and to just speak to him and everything. But I didn't sit in that. Like, I didn't cry every day. None of those things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but with my mother, oh, that was just like, and I knew that.
Mhm.
That's something that I used to say when I was a kid. I used to say that. I'm like, when my mother passes away, they better make room for me. I'm going with her because I'm not staying here without my mother. I always said that since I
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
little girl, and so it was just, and like you said, that transition of your mom, like with them telling you you need to go
yeah,
do something because
yeah,
your mother doesn't want, it's like they don't want to leave us. You were your mother's only baby. I was my mother's only baby. They don't want to leave us, no matter how old we are.
no,
And
no,
we have to give them that time. And
yeah.
that night, the last night, I didn't stay with her because Zoe was working and
Mhm.
Zoe was exhausted. And so we went and we had dinner there while in mommy's room, and we ate one of her favorites. My mother loved hot dogs.
Uh,
And of course, she couldn't eat them, or she was already transitioning. And so we went and we had hot dogs, and then we left. I went to take Zoe home. My cousin was there. And my cousin says, don't worry, I'll be here through the night, with mommy. And I said, okay. She's like, go ahead and take Zoe home. And I guess my mother just knew, every night I never slept. The whole time my mother was in the hospital or the hospice. And between those two things, it happened,
mhm.
it was about a month. It was 2 days shy of a month. 2 weeks in the hospital and 2 weeks in the hospice. And I never slept. I was on red alert if the phone's going to ring or what's going to happen. That night that mommy transitioned, I slept like a baby. They called here so many times to wake me up to tell me that mommy had passed. I didn't hear the phone or anything. And
Oh,
I think that
God.
was my
Yeah,
mother saying, you need your
yeah.
rest now. Now I'm gone and now you can rest.
Yes.
Yeah, that was so powerful
Mhm.
to me. That
Yeah,
was so powerful.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I think, the most important thing is that, that the love continues,
Hmm.
and that it's not necessarily that the grief gets smaller. I mean, the grief is
Yes.
is always there, but our container to hold it gets larger.
Yes.
As we go forward. And,
Yes.
we continue, because that, I mean, your mother wouldn't have wanted you to just shut down.
No, she wouldn't.
Just like, and uh, just, life is so precious, and I think no
Yes.
matter what the circumstances, when someone passes, we're never ready for it, because my
Never.
husband had been dying for 20 years. I mean, he had a lot of health problems, and he did not think
Yes.
that he would have a long retirement, but he lived to, I think he was 70. He was almost 73 or almost 74 when he passed,
Hmm.
and we were both the same age. And his,
Yes.
but um, And my mother said one time, she said, no matter what the circumstances, we're never ready to let go of our parents.
Right.
And I learned, through my parents. Daddy was very, very sick, and he was so sick that we couldn't bring him home from the hospital. He had to be transferred to a nursing home. And one night, it was like 10:30 at night. The children had gone to sleep, and my husband was watching television. And this was back in 1996. And I felt like I had to go and see Daddy. you know. And I
Yes.
had my purse and I said, I called the nursing home and I need to go see Daddy. And Ricky just said, well, okay, you know.
Right.
Um, I went in and stood at the foot of his bed, and he was lucid. He was so sick he like had dementia,
Mm-hmm.
and he was 87. And he said, I think I'm sicker than I've ever been. And I said, you are, Daddy. I said, you're
Yes.
so sick. And we had this wonderful conversation. And I went home and I just felt so peaceful about it. And
Yes.
the next morning, when I took Mother to the nursing home, he had figured out where he was, and he was not happy. I mean, he said, I am not going to stay here. I am not going to stay here. He said, tomorrow morning, I am going home. And I got a call the next morning at 7:15 from the nursing home. And they said, Mrs. Blanton, there's been a change in your father's condition. I said, what do you mean there's been a change? And she said, well, you have a DNR, which is do not resuscitate. And she said, your father is dying. Do you want that to stand? And I said, absolutely.
Yes.
And and even though as sick as he was, it was a shock. And my mother, I mean, she was just absolutely devastated because they had such a wonderful marriage. They really
Mm-hmm.
you know and she outlived him by 18 months, but she was ready to go. She was tired. you know
Yes. I can imagine.
yeah. And so I look at all that, and I have often said my parents taught me how to live and they taught me how to die.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
true. It's
It
true.
is so true, Nancy. I say the same thing.
Yeah.
My mother,
Yeah.
yeah, she taught me how that,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And your tears are precious.
Yes.
Yes, they are. You know.
Yeah.
And but I don't. Was there anything else that you wanted to speak about?
Um,
Lexi, on
well, I
the
wanted
topic?
to
Yeah. Yeah. What do you have?
say, I was going to say something that we were talking about, the losses, of course, like of our
Mm-hmm.
parents and different things. And like you just said,
Uh-huh.
that losing our parents is what teaches us, right? How to go.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that whole moment for me, you know, the parallels between Zoe and I and my mother and I, that's like a scary thing for me,
Yes, it is.
as Zoe and I are the same as mommy and I know the feeling of now losing my mom and
Uh-huh.
that, and then
Yeah.
Zoe's the only child for me. So that those are things that I think about every day.
Yeah.
I think about that every day because I don't want her to suffer, or
Mm-hmm.
to really grieve like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that she has somebody with her,
Yeah.
like I had her, you
Yeah.
know. And but yeah, I'm just grateful that she was able to have her grandmother for 23 years. My
Mm-hmm.
grandparents were all passed away when I was a little girl. Two of my grandparents weren't even alive when I was even thought
Uh-huh.
of. and on both sides. And I had my grandfather, Pedro Morales, my mother's father,
Oh.
and then I had my father's mother, Gladys Milner, my mama. So I had those two grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tease, my sister and my brother, because my sister, you and my sister are the same age. She's turning 80 this year,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother is 78. And they had so much time with my grandmother, but I didn't. I came so far after them. So I didn't have that much time with her. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, gosh, you all did. Every time I talk to my sister, she tells me all the stories of all the things they did. And I'm like, and I'm like, gosh, I wish that I could have had those times too with my
Right.
grandmother.
Right.
And my both of them died when I was, I think my grandfather passed, I think when I was maybe 7 or 8. And my grandmother, I think, passed when I was probably 9 or 10, like around that time, maybe. And for both of those, I was in the Virgin Islands. And so I did
Mm-hmm.
not go to my grandmother's funeral. And I was in school and they thought it was best. And so, and my mother couldn't get off of her job to travel back to Connecticut to take me.
Mm.
So I didn't go to Mama's funeral. So I have to listen to these things, from my sister and my brother to tell
Yeah.
me what happened. And
Yeah.
then my granddaddy's funeral, I was there for that. And,
Mm-hmm.
I just remember all of that. My mother did not have a funeral. She didn't want one. She wanted to be
Yeah.
cremated. She's like, I want to be spread on the beach where I loved in different places. And Zoe and I haven't done that yet. And that's something that we have to do in the future. But she's
Right.
here,
Right.
a little tied up in a nice, she's wrapped in a nice box. She looks like a Christmas present.
Yeah.
And so she's here with me always, but I do get those teary moments, when I
Mm-hmm.
think of the things, that,
Mm-hmm.
like what's going to happen, when I'm gone, like, well, you're not going to know what's going to happen when you're gone. You're just going to be gone. It's just going to happen. And I've learned so many things, when somebody goes away, like we know that saying, you can't take it with you, you really can't. And so, I'm prepared. I've never been afraid of death ever in my life. I've never been afraid of that.
I just wanted to say that Ben said, sending you both a hug. I have to dash, but I've really enjoyed listening to you both. I'll be watching the rest on replay. You give me hope that as a person, I can still carry on in the deepest of grief. That's beautiful, Ben. Thank you so
So
much.
beautiful.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to say goodbye to Ben.
Yes.
Um, uh,
And hi, Ginger.
yes.
You're here.
There's one thing I wanted to talk about, but I wanted you to finish what you were saying. I hope you didn't lose your thought.
No, no.
Okay.
Well, what I was saying is I've never been afraid,
Uh-huh.
of death at
Right.
all. Never been afraid. And when I saw how my mother passed and everything, she was so
Hmm.
peaceful. When we went to the crematorium before she was cremated, and they said, you can go and spend some time. And she just looked so peaceful. She had not one wrinkle at 89 years old, not one. She was just gorgeous and peaceful and just there, and that was a comfort. That was a big
Yes.
comfort to me. But
Yes.
that still didn't help me in the days after. I just couldn't help
Hmm.
it because coming back here, knowing that she would never be coming back here again. When she went to the hospital, it was Mother's Day,
Oh,
and we had just
that
given
was
her her
hard.
gifts. It was the night before, so we had just given her her gifts that night, and we walked out of here like at about 11:30. Saturday Night Live had just come on. I remember it so distinctly. And I says, "Do you want me to call the ambulance?" She's like, "No, I can go by myself." And I'm like, "Okay." So she walked down the stairs just like nothing, But that was the
Hmm.
last time she would ever leave here. She would
Oh,
never come back. And so
bless her.
those things, I think about that.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah. Her
think about that.
strength. Her strength.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, what I wrote down a few things I was thinking about, and I kind of I was thinking about grief as a liminal space, and I wanted to address that, and I wrote down my thoughts so that I wouldn't be like all over the place with it. And a liminal space is a threshold. This means it means like a doorway, you know, and it's the place between what was and what will be. You are no longer the person you were before the loss, but you have not yet become the person you are growing into. Grief is not simply sadness, it's living in that doorway. And, you
Mhm.
know, we can be in that doorway for a long time.
Yes.
When my husband died 3 years ago, my old life ended in a way that could never be reversed. My new life did not appear overnight. I entered a sacred wilderness where familiar landmarks disappeared. That wilderness is liminality. My old self had died. This is where the grief as a spiritual teacher came in for me when I was
Yes.
able to visualize this. And one of the most difficult truths about grief is that it isn't only the loved one who dies, it's the version of me who existed in relationship with my husband also died. The wife, the daily companion, the person who expected tomorrow to unfold in a certain way.
Mhm.
I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. Nothing felt settled. Liminal spaces are uncomfortable because they resist certainty. I just didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen. I felt like I was lost.
Yes.
I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know what my future would look like. And I questioned who I was. Somewhere in the process of all of this, I lost myself. I mean, I completely lost who I was.
Yes.
And I learned to sit beside grief. And I learned that I didn't need anyone's approval. It was going to take as long as it was going to take. And I didn't care how long that would be. You know, I was working through something. And eventually my priorities became crystal clear. I wanted to be more authentic of a person. And I wanted to be a gentler person to people that suffer around me, you know. And I learned that grief never completely leaves, and neither does love. And they begin to occupy the same heart, you know, and they're both at home there. And that's what's
Yes.
supposed to happen, you know. You aren't
Yes.
supposed to forget the grief. The grief is love,
Right.
you know. And like I had a question: what if grief isn't a problem to solve? What if it is a sacred threshold that asks us not to become who we were again, but to become someone we would never have imagined before,
Mm.
you know?
Yes.
And I mean, can you, I'm sure that you can identify with that, can't you,
Yeah,
Lexi?
I definitely can. Yeah, I
Um,
definitely can.
and I wrote out a blessing. May we have the courage to stand in the doorway without rushing through it. May we trust that not knowing is sometimes the holiest place to stand.
Yes.
And may those we love, though no longer beside us, continue to shape us into people whose hearts have become spacious enough to hold both sorrow and joy. That's the quiet grace of the liminal path. Liminal spaces are where the soul catches up with what the mind already knows. But the soul moves at another pace. It needs seasons, it needs silence, it needs tears, many, many tears. It needs unexpected moments of laughter that arrive without guilt. I remember the first time I laughed. Afterwards, I mean, it was like a foreign sound, you know,
Yeah.
and it felt good.
Yes.
Grief is the soul's way of saying, "I'm still rearranging the furniture of your heart." And I have always been a furniture rearranger. My children would
Yeah.
know what my house was going to be like, or my husband.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I put, when a bell is struck, the sound eventually fades, yet the
Mhm.
silence afterwards is not empty. It has been changed by the ringing. And love is like that. And you know, I would think about that when um, I would ring a bell, or when I would hit one of my singing bowls, when I would.
Yes.
And I put, finally, the physical presence may be gone, but the heart has been forever altered by the resonance of that life. The silence that follows is different because love once rang there. Grief is one of the few experiences that gently dissolves the illusion that we are separate. Every person who has loved deeply has stood in that same doorway.
Mhm.
May our hearts continue to be both soft and strong, you know, because
Yes.
the beauty is allowing your heart to be soft and not to become hard, because it can go that way.
Oh, of
That's
course.
that's where allowing grief to be a spiritual teacher
Mhm.
is so important. We have to be open to that, however long it takes.
Exactly.
Selena just came in. It's wonderful to
Yes.
see you, Selena.
Mi hermana.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to respond to you, Nancy, to
Yes.
this
Yeah.
whole thing with, for me, right? A liminal space is the place between, same as what you said, what was and what will be,
Yeah.
right? It's that space
Yeah.
in between. And it's that in between season where your old life is gone as you know it and as you
Mm-hmm.
remember it, but your new life, it hasn't fully arrived yet,
No.
right? It hasn't arrived. So you think that grief, basically is one of the deepest liminal spaces that we ever experiences, because before grief, you knew who you were
Yeah.
before.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then during the grief, it's like you not who you were anymore.
Mm-mm.
You just didn't know, you didn't know who you were becoming in that moment. And then after the grief, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, for me, I slowly discovered that grief wasn't asking me to go back,
Yeah.
but it was asking me basically to move forward, carrying my love, but in a new way. Because
Mm-hmm.
grief is love with nowhere to go, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to carry it in a new way. And when my mother died, the world kept moving. It kept moving, but mine stood
Mm-hmm.
still for a while. It just stood still.
Right.
And I was living in that in between place,
Mm-hmm.
where everything looked familiar, but nothing felt the same. And I think that's how it is for most of us in that grieving process. And that's what that liminal space feels like to me.
Well, to me, I thought of it like as standing in a doorway, and having like
Yes.
one foot on one side and one foot on the other side,
Yes.
and just staying there. And then I thought, I looked at the hermit card, and in this card, beyond the light that he carries, is a portal.
Yes.
And in my grief, being a spiritual teacher, I became a hermit because I had to work through this myself.
Hmm.
And I had the light of the tarot and of my beliefs, but the tarot was such a bright light for me. It helped me so much through my grieving process that it allowed me to step through that portal.
Yes.
Because the thing that happened to me, which is different, I think, from what happened to you. But before my husband had passed, I had completely lost myself. I mean, I was just putting one foot before the other, and stumbling forward. That's the only way
Yes.
I could put it. Now, I wasn't that way when my parents passed. you know because it was
Yes.
different. you know and
Hmm.
and being a caregiver is not for the faint-hearted.
It is definitely not. It
you
is
know
not.
but there was a lesson in that too. And
Yes.
um and I I am just thankful that I chose to embrace the spirituality
Mhm.
in my life, because it has helped fulfill me in such a profound way. I can't even really put it into words, but
Right.
um, but it's drawn me me closer to the people that I love, and it's made me a stronger person. And the children were able to say, "Well, phew, Mama's finally back."
Right. Right.
Because they said, it was scary. You were not who you always were. You
Right.
were just like a robot. You know.
Yeah. And that's the same with me too and Zoe. I mean, imagine, it was just Zoe, and she didn't know what to do. Me
Yeah.
crying every minute,
Oh my
every
goodness. Yes.
day, all night. She would just, kind of like brace herself and just look
Yeah.
at me like, what do I, she didn't
Right.
know what to
Right.
do or anything like that, and I've come out of that so much, but I still have my moments, like
But I'm
I
sure
went
you
to
were
the
able to talk to her about it and let her know, what you were feeling,
Oh,
and it,
yeah, and
and it's
absolutely.
okay. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
I mean, you had to do that to get through.
I did. I
Because
really did.
if you had shut it off, it
Oh, it
could
would have
be,
been so much worse, and
but
that
also
would have
it would have
brought
made
so
you
much.
sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been so negative, so much negative energy if I had
Yeah.
totally just like,
Hmm.
cut everything and just was, had no feeling at all.
Yeah.
And I'm a very emotional person to begin with. Everybody here knows that. I cry at the drop
Oh
of a hat. I
no,
cried in the live stream the other day.
surely you jest.
I'm always crying in the live stream. I'm always crying at something.
That's because you feel,
I
and
do,
that's a
Nancy. I
good,
truly
yeah.
do. I
And
truly
I
do.
mean, and one of the one of the things, I mean, this has nothing to do with grief, but when I was pregnant with my first child, my husband and my parents and I were playing cards, and we were having the best time. But I was like maybe 4 months pregnant, and the hormones were just, I mean, oh my goodness. And we were laughing about something that my father said, and all of a sudden I started crying. And they just froze, because
Right.
it was just like that. And I
Yes.
said, I'm not unhappy. I don't know why I'm crying. And Ricky was like, probably said, what in the world is going to happen during the next months, if this is happening already.
Right. Right.
But, it's just our emotions,
Yeah.
and
Our emotions,
but that was so funny, because we were all so happy,
Yes.
because Ricky and I were 34 when Robin was born, and my parents had probably given up.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that
yeah,
was me too. I was 33 when Zoe was born. My mother was 33 when she had me.
yeah,
It was like when I went to the doctor, right, pregnant,
yeah.
and they sent me to these specialists, and they were like, "Oh, you're a what did they call me? Oh goodness gracious, what do we call the old folks? Genie something.
Geriatric.
Geriatric. It was a geriatric pregnancy. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
for
only 30.
goodness sake! They
I'm
never
like, I'm
said that to
only
me. If
33,
my
for God's sake.
doctor had said that to me, I'd have come off that table and
I know. I'm like, I'm only 33, for God's
yeah,
sake.
yeah.
Ginger
Oh
said
my
she was
goodness.
32 when Kyle was born,
Yeah.
right? Ginger, how dare they say we were geriatric?
I mean,
How
my
dare they?
goodness. Well, I personally cannot imagine having a child like at 17 or 18. I mean, my my a lot of my friends got married right out of high school, and they got
Mhm,
pregnant,
mhm.
really quickly. And I I was, so much older, that
Yes,
I cherished every moment, because I
yes.
wasn't, at that age, I wasn't sure if I would have trouble getting pregnant, and I got pregnant 2 weeks after we got married. But, that that was just part of the joy, and part
Right.
of the beautiful memories that I hold in my heart,
Yes, of
that my
course. Of
husband and I
course.
shared,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, they're talking about how hot it is. It's hot here too. I have tried not to have my
Yeah.
air conditioning on, but tomorrow in my beautiful mountains, it's supposed to be 90 tomorrow and the next day. So when I get up, I'm going to put on my air conditioner first thing. You can see my rosy cheeks. I've got
Yes, Nancy.
everything.
Yeah, yeah. It's warm in here
Yeah.
too. 90 degrees here. Right. Well, right now it's 91.
Right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming and holding space with us, and
Yes.
I hope that you have taken something away from the conversation that we had. And oh, hi, Abstract Beauty After
Hi,
Dark. So
abstract.
yeah, so lovely to see you.
Yes.
And I don't know. I was just going to say, Ginger, if there's anyone in the chat that hasn't subscribed to you, could you real quick put your link in, and Selena, if you could put your link in.
Yeah, it's
We're,
91 by Selena. Yeah, and
oh
Ginger.
my
Yeah,
goodness.
Ginger. We're getting the same degrees. Nancy's going to be cooler than us, so we all need to go to
Yeah,
Nancy's, Ginger.
yeah, yeah. I'll even turn on the air conditioner for you. Oh my gosh. I just don't want to have this huge bill, but
I know, Nancy. I know.
this crone is sweltering.
I know, Nancy.
Oh, okay, Ginger. Let me see if I can put your link in real quick. Let me do that because I want to do that before we. Let's see. Wait a minute. What am I doing, Nancy? Let me find Ginger here. Okay, go to your channel. I'm going to do it. I'm just right there, Ginger. We're going to do that. Copy link. Okay, here we go. This is Ginger's link I'm putting in right now. And if you haven't subscribed to Ginger, please do. And let me put in Selena's link.
Selena put hers in.
Oh, did she? Okay, good.
She did.
Because we want to pass.
She put Ginger's in too.
Oh,
Selena
great!
put both
Great.
in.
Oh, great!
And
Thank you, Selena.
yeah, we need a new show. Ginger said the sweltering crones.
Yes.
Thank you, Hermana.
When I was in China, and it smells like roses. It's made out of bamboo, and I've been using it. But we're gonna close it up now, and we want to thank you for being here, and anyone who watches afterwards. I hope that you've enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as well, because grief comes to all of us, and it's if we can use it as a spiritual teacher, we're so much better off than if we just flounder.
Yes.
So yeah. So we love you, everybody, and thank you. And
love you plenty.
Let's all try to keep cool, okay?
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.